Before I start, this is the summary of the second season of the series, Chucky Link Part 1. You will find it in the verse that appears above and is located below in the description. And without further ado, let us begin. The last thing we saw is that Junior killed Chucky. But Chucky was also able to kill him, and Jack was able to kill someone. From the versions of Chucky and Andy, they take the truck with the good dolls in it, but the toy inside it shows the spirit of dedication and points a gun at him. Then he goes to the air, and at the same time we see 3 copies of Chucky coming out of his carton, and Andy is driving the truck recklessly, knocking the gun out of the car, taking the gun from the ground, and killing Tiffany. So all the games, the Chucky in the carton starts to come out, and Andy didn't have enough bullets to kill all of this, and Chucky's clone gets into the car and is going to kill Andy. Andy decides to sacrifice himself in exchange for getting rid of Chucky forever and throws himself in the car over the bridge to get rid of everything. Chucky's version saves people from his evil, but whether they all died or not, we still don't know. After that, we see Jack going to meet Devin in his new home because there is a new family that has adopted Devin. Jack also has a daughter in his family, and this is after she complains that he killed their family. The two of them say hello to each other because they have graduated from school and will not be seen. After a while, they started living far away from each other, and Jack went to stay with his new group. And we went 6 months later, specifically on Halloween, and we saw a woman wearing clothes that looked exactly like Chucky. And she went to Jack's house, and when Jack saw her, he was terrified because he was thinking about Chucky. And then he opened for her. Second, the girl was asking him for sweets on the occasion of Halloween, and Jack had the sweets in her hand. And he was a little nervous because I remembered Chucky and his new brother, Gary, coming to Jack. He is the son of the family that adopted Jack. Jack and Gary were getting ready to participate in the Halloween celebrations. But Jack got a call from Devin and Devo asking him to meet Odd because they had not seen each other for 6 months. Suddenly, the line between them was cut off, and Jack received a call from an unknown person, and this person was Chucky. And Jack at first did not know that this was Chucky, and Chucky kept saying suspicious things to him, and here Jack suspected that it was the one who was talking to him. Chucky stays, and Chucky laughs and says, "I'm just calling you to make sure you're home." And then the door knocks, and it's Jack. He gets worried, grabs the knife, and opens the door, but he doesn't find anyone. Dave then yells at him. Dave tells him, "I'm getting a call from an unknown person," and Jack tells him, "I'm also getting the same call." I felt that his voice was halted, and I had the feeling that he was Chucky because he laughed the same laugh, and Devo tells him that it is impossible for him to be Chucky because every version of Chucky died with Andy, so Jack has no evidence for this, and basically the police did not find Andy's body. And suddenly Jack gets a call from the same unknown person, and Jack answers him. The unknown person opens the camera and shows Jack that he is knocking on Lexi's house. Caroline opens the door, and Chucky is still wearing a mask, so think soft. She knows that this is Chucky, thinking about a young family, and Chucky asks her to go to the bathroom, and Caroline agrees and intervenes. So Jack's phone becomes very worried, and Devo quickly goes to call the police, and Jack tries to call Lexi, but she wasn't answering, and at the same moment, Chucky kept entering Lexi's room and used to hang up the call, and Lexi was with her friend in the room and didn't feel any. And the police arrived and suddenly called for them and told Lexi, "We got a report from a person named Devin that you are in danger." Lexi looks at her phone and finds messages from Jack, and Kanan tells her to worry about you. In the room, Lexi thinks when Chucky wanted to kill her a long time ago, and Caroline says to Lexi, "I saw Chucky at home," but then he walks away, and Lexi becomes so worried that she asks the policewoman to stay with her in the house that she doesn't have, and the next day Caroline leaves. To the psychiatrist whose name is Mix, because Caroline entered into a bad psychological state after her father died, and Dr. Mixter is trying to convince Caroline that the one who killed her father and the people in the movie theater was Junior, and Caroline does not believe it anymore and is convinced that it was Chucky, but Lexi is also trying to convince her that it was Chucky. Junior tells her that Chucky is just a toy and Mixter. She has a necklace of toys and Mixter. Caroline says she takes a toy doll to play with because this will break the complex she has and makes her. In fact, Caroline takes the toy and goes with it. And then a journalist comes to interview Michelle and her family. And now Michelle is no longer the mayor of the city after the rosary that happened in the cinema. But Michelle wants to run again for the position of mayor and says that she is the best person for the position of mayor because she lost her husband in the same massacre. The journalist asks Caroline about Chucky and says to her, "Do you still have this game?" But Michelle doesn't. She likes this question and sends the journalist out of the house. And at night, Lexi remains afraid of Belle's new toy because it is Jude's type. He comes and she grabs her and she starts starts hitting her on the ground to make sure she doesn't have a suspicious spirit inside her. And to be more sure, she ties her tightly to the chair and gives Caroline a knife to keep it with her Dot. To protect herself and Lexi, she sends a picture of the game Bell to Jack and Dave and asks if they have seen this game before. Then Jack goes to Dave's house and they go to Lexi's house to make sure that there is no suspicious spirit in this game. Devo takes the electric shock with him and Lexi enters the house and is afraid of someone, the window, and they say, "Lexi, the toy that you sent us her picture of is a good guy coming in. There is a spirit of dedication inside her." And the three of them go to Caroline's room to see the game. Lex is surprised that the game is not tied to the chair and that she is sleeping next to Caroline. Suddenly, Lexi's mother calls for 0 hours, 5 minutes, and 12 seconds. Lexi Flexi hides Jack and Devin in the closet because Michelle can't stand them anymore since the hour of what happened in the movie theater massacre. And Michelle comes to check on Caroline, and they both leave the room, and then Jack and Devin leave the room. And the next morning, Lexi finds Caroline having breakfast with the toy inside. Next to her, Caroline told her that I love the game, Bill, very much, and that Lexi would go to Jack. And Devo, who is still in her room and talking about Chucky and Lexi, is suddenly forced to leave them and is afraid of the bathroom. And this is because Lexi has started taking tranquilizers for panic attacks. And this illness has come to her because of Chucky as well. Dot, we know that she has become addicted to this drug and takes high doses of it. While she is in the bathroom, the door of the house bangs and Caroline goes to open it. And surprisingly, a carpenter, the son of the family who adopted Jack, appears, and he was carrying Chucky, and Chucky was holding a bomb in his hand. And Chucky passes Caroline. He is afraid of the house, and the one who is going to blow up the whole house is really afraid. And Jack and Devin come down and see him and complain about me. He ordered them to sit down and not move. And Chucky told them, "I've been waiting for a long time for you three to gather together so I can kill you together. But you've stayed away from seeing each other for the past 6 months. Finally, the opportunity came. And as soon as Lexi arrived, he blew up the place." So Jax went to him. "Dot, what are you that brought you back to us in the first place?" Fitch tells him that there were 72 copies of me and I was literally going to take over the world. But because of you and because of this, most of my copies died. And of course, when I blow up the place with the bomb, I won't die forever because there are still second copies of me and I keep waiting. Lexi had his hand on the button, and a few seconds later, Lexi came down, and Chucky was just gonna blow up the place. Devin escapes at the last moment, and Gary takes the bomb from the floor and takes it to the kitchen. But Chucky keeps running after him and jumps on him and looks at the button, and the bomb works. But fortunately for Jack, Lexi, Devin, and Caroline, nothing happens to them. But my neighbor is still dead, and the family who built Jack decides to abandon Jack. And there is an investigator who meets the children after what happened, and the investigator believed that they were the ones who made the bomb and caused my neighbor's death. So they are sentenced to go to juvenile detention, but the psychiatrist Dr. Mixter comes forward with a second suggestion, and that they go to a religious school for mentally disturbed youth. And the goal of this school is to correct the mental condition of the youth and improve their behavior, makes them religious. And their condition definitely improve, and they will return to normal. In fact, there is a bus transporting her to this school, and coincidentally, the situation she got into is after that Tiffany becomes numb. Her hands show blood for Becca, because when Becca sees blood, Becca's soul is exchanged with Chucky's. So Chucky's soul is the one controlling Becca's body now, and she's gone asking him, "Why you put my bride's head in my bed?" Chucky laughs and tells her, "This is just the beginning, and I'll make you pay the price. If you kill me in all the games of good guy that contain your soul, I will kill it and sacrifice it." She asks him, "How did I put the head of the toy in my bed when I cut off 2 hands and 2 legs?" She cried, and Chucky did not want to tell her. And we would dismiss that if there was still a feud between Chucky and Tiffany. And then we would go to school, and Jake, Dave, and Lexi would hand over their phones to the nun, and everyone, one of them, takes the clothes that they will wear as long as they are in the place. And the priest and the school principal, Bryce, comes to greet them. And in my opinion, he tells them, "You are here to do a reinvention, to know the right path of our Lord, and to repent for the mistakes you have made." He then takes it to show them their leaders, and the nun Ross is speaking with nun Elizabeth about the donations and needs that came to the place. And they are opening one of the boxes, and this is what Chucky had inside of it. Arrives at the new Lexi lad and meets her roommate, whose name is Nadine. And Nadine introduces herself to her and tells her, "I came to this school because I have an obsession with the theft. Jack and Devo go to my new room, and the 2 of them stay, but together in the same room." Lex meets in the place an old friend of hers from school named Taylor. This Taylor used to bully Lex when they were young. Flex comes to provoke him and insults him in front of his friends, but she reacts. Taylor was calm and did not get into a frenzy, nor did he return an insult with an insult, telling her, "I hope you forgive me for anything." something I did to you a long time ago, and Lexi was amazed at the peace and religiosity he had become. On the other hand, the nun Elizabeth was sitting in her office, and Chucky was on the table behind her, and suddenly he was Chucky. He falls off the table, and the nun, Elizabeth, is surprised and grabs Chucky and puts him back in his place, and Hale comes back in her place, but Chucky falls again, and the nun doesn't care and continues her work. But she struggles when Chucky appears in front of her once, and she stays on the chair, and from the bowl she took, she has a cardiac arrest, and she dies. And Chucky, he is happy that he was able to kill her without doing anything, because this way no one will know that he killed her, and he will appear to be in cardiac arrest and take a picture of her on the phone he has, so that he will send this picture to a certain person. The ambulance will come and take the body of the nun Elizabeth, and the whole school will know that she is dead, and our three heroes will be shocked that when they see Chucky on the nun's desk, they understand that Chucky's the one who killed her, and Chucky moves and beats her, and Price comes and locks the office door and tells all the students to pray for the nun Elizabeth and ask them to go back to their normal lives. And our three heroes go to stand aside and think about what they will do. What's with Chucky, who came here the second time? The problem is that they can't tell anyone that there is. The bride wants to kill them so that no one will believe them, and she hates them as crazy. And Friar Price fears for them and tells them, I know everything about you and your past from Dr. Mixter, and I want to tell you what you are afraid of is just a game. So do not worry about this paradise and focus on your studies. After that, we will go days when his soul was inside the game of good guy, and we will learn that she chose to transfer her soul into the body of a famous actress named Jennifer. And this is, of course, using a spell and a spirit. Actress Jennifer was transferred to the game's body. And since then, Tiffany has been living as Jennifer. As for the game, inside her is Jennifer's spirit. She has been locked up with Tiffany since then, and this explains why she told Michelle and the audience that she is a famous actress, and they believed her. Currently, Tiffany is living Jennifer's house with her and Becca, and Tiffany is living all of this on a regular basis. Money and wealth actress Jennifer Watfani tells Becca that my children, Glenn and Glenn, are coming at the end of the week to celebrate their birthdays. And suddenly the doorbell of their house rings, and Watfany doesn't know who is knocking. Becca tries to take advantage of the situation and shouts and asks for help, but Watfany stays silent, blocks her mouth, and goes out. You meet the person who messes up and who was an investigator named Sam. And the investigator, Sam, tells her, I came here to look for a missing woman named Becca, and she is running out of money. She gives charity when she finds out that he is looking for Becca, and she tells him, I don't know anyone with that name. She keeps talking to him and leaves. She is afraid of her house, and we will go back to Jack. The one who was studying asked Bryce to go to the bathroom, and Bryce agreed. But in reality, Jack went to the terrible Elizabeth's office and approached Chucky and grabbed him. But he was afraid for Bryce and sat talking to him and told him to forget the thoughts in your mind. This is just a game, and I have a book in my hand for him to read. Bimmer stays here in the office and reads the book, while Chucky stays with him to make sure it's just a plastic toy and locks it. He walks through the door, and Jack is talking to Chucky, and they ask how many of you lived in the accident with Andy. But Chucky stays still in his place and does not talk to him, so Jack knocks him down from the desk, and when Jack looks at him, he does not find him. Suddenly, Chucky takes a picture of and runs away from the chimney. Price comes and asks Jack, and Jack tells him, I don't know. And then Jack comes out of the room and tells his friends about what happened, and no one still understands why Chucky is taking a picture of Jack, and he doesn't even think about it. And Lexi at night remains afraid that Chucky will. He comes to her room and asks Nadine to move the dresser toward the door. When Nadine asks why, Lexi lies to her and tells her, I walk while I'm asleep. And Nadine tells the truth and keeps the hairstyle behind the door all the time. But after a while, we discover that Chucky is actually sitting under the bed, and Lexi is waiting when Nadine sleeps and goes to get contraband materials. I quote, S hers, and Chucky is leaving. And Pizzo is filming her, and Lexi doesn't feel him, and Chucky goes to tear the hairstyle to get out. And here Lexi takes her mind off of him and keeps screaming, and Nadine wakes up and sees Chucky, and Chucky runs away immediately, and Lex comes after him, and she sees him in the bathroom to hide, and because of Lexi's screaming, all the students wake up, and Lexi wakes up. She guides Nadine and philosophizes his life. She becomes suspicious of someone, and Lexi comes into the room, and Price asks her about what happened to Flexi. Of course, she does not tell him the truth, but she tells him anything, and tells him, I was just afraid to be afraid of the bathroom. Jack and Devo understand that Chucky was there, and they understand from Lexi's words that Chucky ran to the bathroom. They are afraid of the bathroom and keep looking for it. but they cannot find it. Chucky suddenly jumps on Jack and wants to kill him with a knife, but Devin gets excited and drops the knife and his phone, and Jack grabs his phone and takes pictures while Devin tries to respond to Chucky, and they ask how many of you are alive. And when Chucky refuses to speak, Devin was going to kill him, but Jack stops him and tells him, I knew Chucky's plan. The next day, Lexi and Nadine meet Jack and Devon, and Lexi asks them about what happened. Jack and Vaughn take her to another room, and Lexi tells Pure that they arrested Chucky, tied him up, and wrapped his shoulders well. And they tell her that Chucky came an hour ago, and he didn't try to kill us. Workers are filming it and filming the place. So the copy of I Went to Chuck Inside is a slightly different version, and this means only one thing. He is collecting information for someone, but we still do not know who this person is. And after that, Bryce meets Jack, and they ask where the game is, Chucky, so Jack doesn't blink and Bryce doesn't blink. He continues to believe me and tells him that I will give you a second chance and that you will bring me the game within 2 days and confess. You stole it, and I promise you, it's just because of the fear you have. And it's Jack taking him as he mined and telling him to walk and leave, and he will walk and go back to his friends, and Lexi keeps flipping through Chucky's phone, and I still don't understand the shame of the pictures. I found a number registered in the name of the commander, so they decided that they had to torture Chucky so that he would speak and say that he was thinking about what he was doing and was in trouble. But he was trying to accept that. And even when they threatened to kill him, he refused to speak and was forced to leave him and go to their lectures so that no one would feel nothing except Devin, who takes sick leave and stays with Chucky and watches Lex. She discovers that there is only one pill left on her narcotic medication. And this is very disturbing to her because she no longer knows how to calm down without this narcotic. And Tyler the bully sees her and knows that she is taking narcotics and threatens that he will expose her and tell the director to go to her health. And he finds out that Tyler is still a bad person. As he was pretending to Lexi that he was good, and Lexi didn't care about what he said, and she left and walked, and we went to Tiffany's. They were almost arriving, and she went to hide Becca in her room and put the plug in her mouth because her children don't know anything about Becca, and because Tiffany still doesn't know how to play good guy's head. She got to her bed and doubted that Chucky would agree with Becca. They get rid of Tiffany, and it actually turns out that Chucky and Becca are planning this, and we see that they are communicating with each other inside Becca and Tiffany's brains. She finds the door banging and goes to open it, and it turns out that it is Detective Sam, and Detective Sam tells her that we investigated and proved that Becca exists. In this house. A technician tells him that she is really there, and then she enters the house and hides behind him and kills because this was the only solution she had before her. Then she hears the sound of her children's car as they are entering the house, so she quickly runs to hide the body of the investigator and wipes away the blood because her children do not know. She is a serial killer, and her twin children, Glenn and Glenda, who by the way are born. These are Ashaki's kids too, while Devin keeps getting choked up by Chucky, who doesn't want to talk, and he goes to him and tells him, your days in this game are numbered, and it looks like I'm going to kill you soon. And Chucky keeps provoking him and telling him, who are you killing? Hey, I've killed people, more than the number of hairs on your head, and he says to him, I killed your mother. So Devin gets angry and was going to kill him, but Jack arrives at the right time and stops, and Dave tells him that we must find a solution with this crazy person. So Jax and Vaughn are thinking of an idea, and they are torturing him and releasing scenes of murder inside him and blood, and they keep opening his eyes far away so that he prefers to watch and not close them, and he watches a lot. These things can make him crazy, and Chucky was enjoying it at first, but over time he can't stand it and asks them to stop these scenes. In fact, they stop the violent scenes and watch a children's cartoon, and Chucky keeps watching all night until the second day in the morning. What a surprise. It happens after that the soul of Chucky, who is inside this game, changes completely from the worst to the better. I mean, his soul becomes a good soul, and this soul completely loses his memory, and he no longer knows whether Jack, Devin, or Lexi. When Jack asks him what brought you to the school, Chucky says to him, I didn't shake, and he really didn't know, and he wasn't acting, and then he broke free easily and didn't do anything. They have something, and they know that the rope that was tied to him was loosened early on, but he doesn't want to move and bother anyone. And they are all surprised by the transformation that happened to him. But Devin did not like this and thought that Chucky should also be killed. And Jack passed by Nadine. She watches Chucky, Piso, and Lexi go to the school infirmary, and she wants to steal tranquilizers from the place, but a Russian nun is afraid. Flexi lies to her and tells her, I just wanted to treat the headache. We then see a shipping vehicle arrive at the school, and a second package arrives at the place, and it was in a second copy. In my opinion, Chucky meets Devin and tells him, I thought you were an eye, but you look like that. I turned out to be a liar, and Bryce decides to punish Devin and tells him that your punishment will go away until Jack returns Chucky to my office. And Devin goes to carry out the punishment, and he is cleaning up some belongings at the school, and Jack sees him and knows that he is on probation, and Devin tells him, we must return Chucky to Bryce's office, or at least we can get rid of him forever. And Jack is telling us that he will act and leave and walk away. And Lex has her turn in monitoring Chucky, but she cannot stay with him for long, and she is afraid. So she walks and goes to the bathroom to take the last tranquilizer pill with her, while Nadine was sitting. The room is closed, and she is talking about Reverend O'Malley in the room next to her. And suddenly she complains whoever has still arrived at the place appears and shouts a difference in voice. And Nadine returns to the room where Chucky is, but she does not find him. She goes to the bathroom and meets Lexi, and at the same time, Bryce goes into his office and finds Chucky on his desk, and he assumes that Jack has returned with Chucky and Bray. He didn't know that this was the new Chucky toy that arrived at the place, and Bryce goes to Dave and removes the punishment from him and tells him that Jack has returned the toy. And then Tyler sneaks into Lexi's room and puts contraband in Lexi's drawer because he wants to tell her that she's an addict. But something else happens. It is expected that the new Chuck will be afraid of him, and this Chucky will be more violent than any other Chucky. And after he hits Taylor, he kills him in some way. He's ugly, and his heart goes out of his way. And Lexi and Nadine arrive at Sad Mo's room when they see the body of Tyler, Jack, and Devo are also there. And it remains that Chucky, who was with them, is being deceived, and he is the one who killed Taylor. And Lexi sees the contraband that Taylor puts it down, and she takes it and hides Taylor's jacket in their room. And we see good Chucky sitting in Rice's office, and the new Chucky, who has muscles, is worried about him. And of course, this fighting. Chucky has an evil spirit inside him from Charles, and fighting Chucky was coming to kill good Chucky because he might spoil them. Their plan, and he tells him that after I kill you, I will kill Jack, Devin, and Lexi, and I will kill you all with weapons. Good Chucky didn't like this talk because he loved them and told him, these are my friends, and I won't let you hurt them. Jack and Dave kept playing tricks on them, listening, and the door was locked and they couldn't open it. Faces, a battle began between Good Chucky, the fighter, and Chucky. The fighter was holding Good Chucky and he was beat, but Good Chucky hits him under a hammer and he flies off, and then he grabs his knives. Fighter Chucky attacks him and kills. Good Chucky takes him out to Jack while he is injured and tired. But Devin tries to convince Jack that there is no such thing as good Chucky and tells him that, of course, he works for us and acts against us, and it is useless to give him safety. It would be better to kill us, but Jack was not convinced. In his words, and I am convinced that this is Chucky, he is really good, and he takes him and leaves Devin and walks away. And Devin goes to check on Chuck, the fighter, and takes knives from him. But at the same moment, he fears for Bryce, and they see that he thinks that Devin is the one who did this to Chucky Dodd. And Devin doesn't know what to tell him. And in my opinion, he brings Dr. Mixter, the nuns, and Pure, which one of them is what Devin did to Chucky. And he tells them that what Devin did is called violence and evil, and I will never go back to what happened. And Dr. Mixter tells him, give me a chance and I can help him get rid of it. The contract he has, and Praise agrees and listens to her words. And Praise passes by the opinion of Ross. She throws the Chucky toy in the trash, and the nun Ross does it, and we return to Finn and her family, and Tiffany welcomes them, and she was trying all the time to keep them away from the detective story so that they don't know that she is a serial killer, and they all sit eating, and suddenly Glenn leaves him. She gets up and wanted to open the room in which Becca was, but of course the room was locked, and she did not know how to open it. And Tiffany comes to her and a person named Givaz, and Tiffany tells her this, Givaz, I brought him this night just to make sure of the room, and Glenn is surprised and asks her mother, why did you bring someone? He guards his room while she is evading the answer, and then Tiffany reacts. The actress Jennifer's relatives are all in the house, and of course Jennifer's relatives do not know that this is Tiffany, and it turns out that Glenn and Glenn are the ones who invited him for a specific reason, and Tiffany goes when she sees them because she is afraid that she will be exposed, and they celebrate the birthday at home and spend the night worrying Dot, and the guard Givaz joins with them, but Tiffany takes him to Kika's door, and she passes by and does not move, and keeps watching the door. When she finishes, she returns to the party and does not find anyone, and she does not understand where they have disappeared. Suddenly, the light goes out, and the security system in the house goes out, and an alarm comes to her to go to bed. Becca was hacked, so she became very worried and went to see what happened. She sees Givaz killed, and Becca is not there, and all of Jennifer's relatives are staying up late after her. She continues to investigate them to find find out who killed Givaz, and we discover that Glenn is the one who kidnapped Becca, and currently they are hiding in a room until Glenn finds out how Becca will escape, and we go back in a flashback before her. 3 months ago, Glenn and Glenn were at Tiffany's house and put a sleeping pill in Tiffany's drink. They did this to find out what was hidden in the room that had been locked all this time, and they were actually able to act and open the door, and he would go inside and see Becca and ask who you are to be theirs. Your mother is a crazy murderer, and she is the one who cut off my limbs and imprisoned me with her for years. The two believe it, and we're going to get out of her mind, but Becca tells them the matter is not easy. I am wanted to be arrested because I committed a crime, Yama, but in fact, I am not the one who committed this crime because the spirit of your father, Charles, suddenly took possession of me. Tiffany excels and searches for them at home, so Glenn goes to distract Tiffany, and by mistake, Glenda gets her hands dirty. So Charles's spirit controls Becca's body, and Charles talks to Glenda and tells her, I am your father. And Glenn does not believe him at first and tells him, our father abandoned us a long time ago when we were young. But Charles is able to convince her that he is really her father and tells her, I did not abandon, and your sister on the contrary is your mother who deprived you of me and reported me to the police. I have a specific plan to free me and a plan to take revenge on your mother. In fact, Chucky convinces her and her sister to come on their birthday and freeze her, preventing her from having to die. She dies, and we return to the present time. Becca and Glenn were waiting for the light to come. When the light came, Glenn took Becca and they were going to ride the elevator and dismantled the body of one of Jennifer's family in the elevator. Early when she saw the blood, she turned to Chucky and Glenn appeared and hit her sister on the brain, knocking her unconscious. And Glenn did this. This is because she wants to kill her mother, and she and Charles decide to get rid of it from Glenn because Glenn was not willing to kill Tiffany, and Glenn then takes Charles to Tiffany's, and we see that Glenda brought Charles an iron knife, and Charles raises the gun to the gun, and then he has the opportunity to kill. Daphne takes revenge, but something strange happens, and there are no bullets in the gun. Fanny hits him with a pen, and Charles moves quickly to escape. He was in a car waiting outside the house. Daphne tried to lock the door of the house, but Charles escaped at the last moment and got into the car and found that there was no driver. The car was said to be alive, and Glenn was coming and riding with them. The car and Glenn decided to go with Tiffany, and then we see footage of the party time, and we learn that Glenda put poison in the drink of the guard, Jiva's, so that she could get rid of him so that they could free Becca. She also asked Jennifer's sister, whose name is Jenna, to bring a gun with her. And Gina actually brought the gun, but what happened was that Gina knew that her husband was cheating on her, so she decided to kill him and put all the bullets in him, and then she gave the gun to Glenn and put the story of her husband in the elevator, and we return to the present time, and Glenn was having nightmares and dreaming that she was killing someone, and then she would wake up and go to talk. With dedication in Glenn, she confronts her and tells her, you kill people for the purpose of having fun. An artistic boy, she tells her, the topic has become an addiction, and you can't wait for me to talk to you about anything unless you tell me Glenda took Becca and where did they go. A little later, she comes to Fanny, Jennifer's second sister, whose name is Meg. They sit and talk, and Meg opens up with her childhood memories. During her early years, she realized that she had grown up and did not know how to share memories with her, and she got up and went to talk to Jennifer, whose soul was trapped in the game, and she asked God about high school memories so that she could respond to Meg, and we knew that Jennifer had been imprisoned for 18 years and that she wanted to be freed in any way. She tells Tiffany the memories of Sunny that she wants to know, and when Tiffany comes back, she talks to her Meg. Tiffany discovers that Jennifer laughed at her and told her something wrong, so she is surprised that her sister is telling something wrong, and Tiffany gets angry and goes to Jennifer and tells her, how can you laugh at me and tell her something wrong? But when Glenn and Meg arrive, they come after her because Daphne's voice is high, and Jennifer, as soon as she sees her sister, asks her for help and learns the truth and tells her, I am Jennifer, your sister, and I am trapped in the body of this game because of the crazy Daphne. But Daphne does not remain silent and kills Meg and gets rid of her because this secret dies with her, and Glenn believes what she sees. She stops telling her that this is the truth about our family and that we are all serial killers, and leaves Tani, brings her a box with a toy doll inside it, and tells Glenn that you and your sister were born in the body of this toy, and after that, your soul moved to the body you are in, and this Glenn's soul moved to the body it is in. This means that this game is your origin, and Glenn varies. She wants to tell her sister Glenda about these facts. Tiffany and Glenn are having fun at home, and he moves and goes to Chucky, Becca, and Tiffany. Jennifer took the game with her, and we go back to Jack and good Chucky and the the rest of them. Devo is worried about good Chucky and tells him that all the horror we are in is because of you, and it is not enough for you. Our family was killed and our lives ruined, and good Chucky is shocked by this. He walks away, but Jack goes after him and makes peace and tells him, I am convinced that you are good inside and can help us eliminate the evil Chucky. At the same time, why did Devo agree on the phone that was with Chucky and Bella? Take pictures. A lot of selfies write that he has imagined with many parts of Chucky's toys, and they understand that he has imagined and throwing his parts into the tracks in order to know the way back. And they say that they are walking and searching for these parts of Chucky so that they can be connected to the character of the leader who is recorded on his phone. And on the other hand, the nun, Ross, can't. In her office, suddenly the trash bin in her office moves and comes out. Chucky is the fighter, and it turns out that there is no match. And the terrible Ross thinks it is a miracle that the game is moving and talking, and she begins to hear Chucky's words in whatever he says. And then Devin and Lexi go to the forest and look into a crowded place full of many parts. From Chucky, he hears voices coming from that hut, and they reconcile. Dr. Mixter is present inside the hut, and Andy is acting inside the hut. Inside the hut, there was a copy of Chucky, and he was a knocker, and he called himself the leader. This leader was one of the smartest versions of Chucky, and Lexi and Devo see him being tortured. With Andy, we go back in a flashback to the time of Andy's truck accident, and we see that he fainted, and two of Chucky's dolls were dragging Andy's body, and then the truck exploded, and a large number of Chucky's dolls died. We return to the present time and learn that the commander took Andy to the hut, locked him up, and continued to be tortured there. Since then, he eats the flesh of his body, and we also know that Dr. Mixter is in a position with Chucky to kill Jack and his friends, because Mixter is Chucky's psychiatrist since he was young, and over time she became his partner, and she is the one who agreed with him and his plan to kill the children's guardians, as we saw before. In Mixter, she tells Chucky to kill these kids instead, but Chucky, the commander, refuses and says, for her, I want to feel this pleasure for myself and know that the first Chucky who went to school was taking pictures of the children so that the commander Chucky could make sure that they were in the school. And then I sold Chucky the fighter so that he would know where the first Chucky went, and the commander was determined by the beginning is that he kills the children himself. And the leader asked Mixter about the two versions of Chucky who entered the school. She tells him that Chucky is dead and the second one does not know where he is. The leader asked Mixter to take him to school, and Mixter agrees and takes him and walks away. After they leave, Devin and Lexi go to the cabin, and Andy wakes up and they say, we will be freed, but Andy doesn't remember them anymore. He thinks that they are following Chucky and he was going to beat him, but they are calming him down and he thinks that they know each other. And Andy asks them to take him to school to get revenge on Chucky. And we go to the nun Ross with Chucky the fighter. And Ross was caring for him and knew that she would do anything for him to please him. With him, McCaster arrives with Chucky, the commander, and they see Chucky the fighter from the window. The commander is surprised that Chucky the fighter is alive, but it remains that Chucky the fighter is a traitor. He decides to add him to the list of people who must die. At school, Bryce gathers all the students and tells them that Lexi, Devin, and Tyler are there. They have been missing since last night and are not present at school, and as a result, all the students are gone one after the other. They will remain banned from all activities until I know where these three students went. Jack meets Mixter, and she is complaining, and Jake wanted to take Chucky from her, but Price arrives and stops him, and he keeps walking and leaving. Lauda and Bryce ask Mixter and tell her, where did you get this toy that you have? She lies and tells him that I took it out of fear, Ross, before she was going to throw it away, so I will use it in my sessions with patients. She wakes up and leaves and walks away, and after a while, Lex and Devil arrive, and Andy is with them, and they tell Bryce and the nun, Catherine, we met a beggar person in Janina at school. We found him injured, so we decided to bring him, and he was treated at school. Bryce talks to Catherine and tells her that I am not reassured, and I do not want to let this man in. But Catherine tells him that the school is open to anyone in need, and Catherine takes Andy to take him to the clinic and treat his leg. And in her opinion, Devin passes Dot, and Lexi goes out for their love, and while they are going for their love, they meet Mixter, and the talk remains open, and Lexi tells them not to run away from school again, because there is a certain person who wants all of you here. Lex tells her that you will pay the price for what you did to Andy at Mixter. She tells them that if you think about it, you will say it. The truth is that no one will believe you, and the leader will kill every one of you. We will go to Glinda, who, she wakes up with memories from the past, and like her sister, she was thinking of a nightmare, and she talks to her sister and asks about this nightmare. Glenn tells her, I have the same nightmare, and Glenn sends her a picture of the toy she took from Tiffany's. We see that this Glenn is sitting in a hotel with Becca, Kyle, and Kyle. Her goal was to get to Andy, and Kyle bares her hands to summon Chucky and raises the gun on him so that she can be safe from him. She asks him about Andy's whereabouts. The gun is taken out of Kyle's hands, and Glenn takes the gun and raises it. Kyle complains that she will kill Kyle, but Glenda refuses and returns the gun. Then they return Becca to her body, and they all see on the news of the fire in the house of actress Jennifer, and that the police found many bodies in the house. And the police are looking for Jennifer to arrest her because of these bodies. And then Jack and his friends gather in a room alone, and Ashok Al-Tayyib is with them. Defo tells Jack about what happened, and tells him that Andy told us that the last suspect to live is Commander Chuck. And we see Andy while he is in the clinic, and the terrible Catherine is treating him. And as soon as she leaves him and walks away, Andy steals scissors from the place, and Ross goes to complain the fighter to Bryce and tells him it happened. I have a miracle and this game is talking, but Bryce can't believe this crazy thing and starts throwing this game away in any trash can. And at night, we see Chucky, the fighter, meeting Chucky, the leader, and each one holding a knife for the other. The fighter wanted to be the leader. They were there and they announced that they were fighting and the winner would become the leader. And Chucky, the leader, would tell him that your problem is that you are muscles dot without a brain. It turns out that the commander put poison on Chucky, the fighter, in the food he was eating. She thought that Chucky had become better. On the other hand, she saw that Chucky, the fighter, had been killed, so she couldn't stand it and said that she was taking revenge. And Mick Cover saw her from afar, and Chucky, who was in Becca's body, was calling. He tells her that we are in the street and coming to school, but Andy is in me. He grabs a knife to kill good Chucky, and the kids try to stop him and make them understand that this is good Chucky. But Andy says there is no such thing as good Chucky and sends that he will kill him. But she reaches for a Mixter and raises a gun on him, and Mixter is able to take Chucky from them. And she also did not know that this is Chucky dot. Okay, then the room closes on them, and Praise and Catherine go back and see Mixter and Chucky talking and asking for help. In my opinion, Catherine and I are shocked that the game is talking, and Chucky tries to pull the gun from Mixter, and by mistake, a bullet comes out, and it hits Catherine, and Andy comes out of the room and is complaining from the stairs, and Mixter has the gun on his brain and checks. Awareness and Chucky start running out of fear. Nadine runs after him, and Chucky stands at the window, and Nadine comes to him. Surprisingly, Chucky knocks her out of the window and dies, and thus Chucky's evil spirit comes back again, and he remembers everything, but sometimes he returns to Chucky. Okay, that means that this Chucky has two personalities. Jack, Dave, and Lexi take Chucky to Mexter's, and they were very sad about Nadine's death. Good Chucky tells Jack, I didn't mean to kill her, and Mixter gives Jack the gun so she can take Chucky, and she takes Chucky from him and says, this is the last copy of him that exists, and it will need to be transferred. A suspicious soul to the body of human beings. But it is said that it will reach. She tells her that this is impossible for this to happen, and he is proud of his life, and that they are expelling Shocky's soul from the game with Mixtard, and transferring Shocky's soul, which is in Becca's body, to the game with Mixtard and Kyle. She agrees with Mixtard on this matter because Kyle wants to save Becca and Mixtard from his soul. Good Shaky and Preyas are the ones who will take on the task of expelling Shocky's soul from the game. We go to Tiffany's on the street. She is afraid of a restaurant and is trying to disguise herself so that no one knows her, because she has still wanted to be arrested after the explosion in her house. But the employee recognizes her. She quickly escapes and gets into the car, and she is very nervous because she doesn't want to go back to the old days. She is wanted for arrest, and she says, I have to return my soul to the game and let Jennifer take her body again. So Jennifer is the one who will be arrested, not me. And we go back to school, and Lexi was the one who was most upset about our death, Dean, and she told Jack and Devo, leave me alone now. And we see that they are well connected, and each one of them has a gun, which he puts in Rice's desk drawer and locks it so that no one can hit him with the other. Chucky, the good man, tries to sympathize with Jack and tells him, I'm sorry that I killed Nadine. Jack approaches him, but Chucky hits him with the brain and leaves. Bad Chucky was deceiving Jack, and Jack lost hope in good Chucky, and Andy locked Chucky in. Until the closet begins the process of expelling his soul, Chucky's evil spirit remains in complete control of the game, and Glenn comes and talks to him and recites everything that happens and tells him, my sister and I lived as orphans all our lives because of you. And Chucky asks, she frees him, but she refuses and walks away, and he tells her, don't run away from me. You are my daughter, and you will turn out to be a thug like me. We go back to Tiffin, who was standing in the gas station, and we see that Jennifer is starting to free herself, and Glenn continues to see her and does not tell Tiffany because Jennifer is making it difficult for her and wants her and Jennifer to be free. Indeed, she moves and runs away from the car, but she is unlucky to get stuck in the car and dies. Jennifer and Tanny see her, and they reconcile in Jennifer's body forever. And Bryce gets ready, and then Chucky begins to expel Chucky's soul. And Chucky pulls from all his limbs, and the bully begins. And Chucky pretends to them that his soul is coming out. And Bryce was close to Chucky, and he says bucket to him, but Chucky put a number on his face and blood came out. And when Becca saw the blood, she was going to turn into Chucky, but he said she quickly blindfolds her so she doesn't transform. And the ritual is completed, and Chucky's body is lifted up and then falls, and Chucky's soul has already left. But the spell is broken, and what happens is that Chucky's soul is transferred to Chucky's body. Bryce and Chucky take revenge on Bryce, completely destroying his body, and they are all upset about Bryce's death. They take tacos, and Shaky's soul is transferred from Becca's body to the game, and the ritual succeeds, and Shaky's soul is transferred. And before he gets up, Jack stops and grabs him, wanting to kill him and get rid of him forever. But the nun Roos fears for them, and she raises a weapon against Lexi, and as Jack passes, he stops. Otherwise, she will kill Lexi and say that she will let Lexi live in exchange for Mixter and Chucky going out alive, and Jack is forced to listen to her words, and Mixter takes Chucky and walks away. And Ross was going to fight them and attack Lexi, but Glenda throws a knife at her and kills her, and Andy takes a pistol and tries to catch Mixter, and he actually catches her and hits her. I miss you in the fire. Mixer leaves Chucky and runs away to spread her skin, and Andy finishes Chucky completely, and they are beaten with fire until he dies, and they all stand and watch Chucky take his last breath, and thus there should be no copy of Chucky alive, and they are all dead, and Lexi, Dave, and Jack. They can't believe that they are finally getting rid of this nightmare, and Becca is happy because she is finally free, and thanks Glenda for helping her. And then a van arrives to school, and Glenn hug each other, and Glenn tells her mother and sister that Chucky is dead forever, and Becca pulls out her gun and raises it at Tiffany and says, "And your mother, you will also die forever." Tiffany tries to beg him and asks her not to kill her, but Becca refuses and shoots her, but Glenn enters and takes the bullet in her mother's place, and Glenn and Tana take Glenn in the car, and he moves to save her quickly. And we go to Kasser, who is laughing hysterically because it appears that inside her is the spirit of Chucky Dot. In fact, it turns out that when Mixter was running away with Chucky, Chucky hit her and knocked her over, and he realized that he could not escape. So he cast his spell on Mixter, and the souls were exchanged, meaning Chucky's soul was transferred to Mixter's body, and Mixter's soul was transferred to the toy, and then Chucky caught Mixter and made himself escape, and then Andy arrived and was killed. Maxter and Chucky currently return to Mexter's apartment, open the safe, and go to Mexter's house. He retains the presence of Jay and Tacky so that he will move his soul to the game with many days, and we go to the time of Christmas, and we see Lixie after I got out of the school and got rid of addiction, and tells people how I got rid of addiction and the things that passed Beth in her life. And she does not tell people any need about my complaint, but she says that she finally got rid of a monster that was present in her life, and returns Lixie and Jack to the house of Lixie. And we see that Caroline is still kept the game Bill and Michelle to receive Lixie and Jack and greet them, and know that Michelle lost in elections. The city's mayor, and from its hour, decided that it was making videos on the net and looked at Leafette and Dibbo Bacon. They are taken it home, and it is permissible for the year, and it will sit in the house of Lixie the length of the Christmas period. And on the second side, Glenna, go to the hospital so that you can assure Glenn and Jalen throughout the period. Mama. And she tells her that a high possibility will die. To complain after he transferred his soul to play Jude J and was then buying an electrical saw without a sound, so that I want to kill Jack and his companions. And the second day of Michelle was a lounge of live, and she complained about the atmosphere of Christmas. And I look at the layup with the game Bill and the second day of Glenda, and she was going to show her sister to get the officer who is on the door is money to buy a coffee for himself, because Glenna wants him to walk now. So that Tiffany knows you are afraid to make it clear, and actually Tiffany is to wear a doctor and a decrease in fear for his Glein, and they will come out of the game with his Galan and Yalan and the Book of Magic. And before What You Want would have said that the talisman will come back to the obedience, and no Allie Tiffany, because she is required to be arrested, but Tiffany is beating him on his brain with the flower, and he lost consciousness. And then Glenna kills the officer, burning, and the shape of Glenda. The situation after that, and you will see the story of the officer, and you will see the body of Galen and Jalen. After that, with Galen and Jalen, who is noticed, and they decided to name themselves a new name. and they called him Gigi and Gigi, asking Tiffany that she is traveling to England so that she and her sister are comfortable in their new body, and Tiffany is compatible. And she says to Gigi, I am my soul to play Belle and Hay with you. And at night we see the traces of Chucky on snow and vented Chuck. I want to open a live video, but I will appear to her from her luxury 2 text with the saw, and no one at home was a sense of need. And it is a good thing Dot refuses to tell him any need. And you say to him, if he wants to reach them, he must kill me the first and complain about telling her, sweet, I will kill you. But let him appear, beating and holding the saw to kill him and take revenge for her mother. And she is complaining about asking for help from Tiffany and saying to her, I am the last copy of even if I died. They understand forever, and Tiffany, you do not cross and say to him, with safety in the saw and Tiffany, it goes to the bed of car so you can take the game. But the Jack is the one who sleeps in the bed, and it is tilted about it. And Davo bet from it too, and Tiffany takes Bill and tries to escape, but the 3 children were coming to it and decided they are asking the police instead of what they kill, and suddenly appear Caroline, and by lengthening his knife for his dedication. And Caroline, you can see it with Tiff, and this because Chucky dominated her highest and misses the knife on Caroline so that he did not call the police and passes their weapons. And Lux gives charity and says to her sister, you do what you do. She says to her, Shuki, he told me on the day that my real mother is Hatagi and she will take Ni, and he told me that Michelle built Ni and hates me and that you are not my sister. And she is laughing because her luck is sweet, and let her try to persuade her sister to back down from what she is doing. But Caroline refuses to hear her and walk with dedication and ride Arabic and Bimshwa. And the 3 children have become orphaned like some. And then the police arrived and investigating them and what happened in his neighborhood school, Fairchild Abechi, and greet them with the abundance of Shirdi. She decides to take them to her home. The reason for every need is that she says to them that I was sensitive for a long time, and after 3 Tiffany weeks come to her call from Becca and Becca, she says to her, I watch you and take my right from you, and I will torment you to the extent that you die of torture, and make me give charity and take the magic book from Caroline and start reading his talisman on the game at night to transfer her soul to the game and get rid of the body of Jennifer. But the strange thing is that after the talisman, there is no need to happen. Here, the 2nd season of Chucky will help us. We connect this video to 8,000 likes for me. I know that you want the 3rd season, which reached the last episode.